In the past week alone, over 242,000 Americans filed for unemployment benefits, a staggering number that far exceeded economists' expectations. As job losses surge and prices continue to rise, a growing number of former Trump supporters are questioning the promises they once believed in. With inflation still at 5.3% and vital federal programs under fire, many voters in red states are now voicing their regret, turning away from the very man who vowed to put their needs first. But what is really driving this shift? And how will it reshape the 2024 election cycle? Trump's appeal was always rooted in his populist rhetoric, promising to revive jobs, reduce taxes, and drain the swamp of Washington. Yet as these promises remain unfulfilled, many voters are starting to express regret. From rural Pennsylvania to the heart of the Rust Belt, former Trump supporters are questioning their loyalty, particularly as the very economic issues he pledged to fix continue to worsen. This shift in sentiment could have profound implications not only for Trump's political future, but also for the broader direction of the Republican Party in the upcoming election cycles. Chapter 1: Economic Realities and Rising Discontent. One of the most pressing factors contributing to the disillusionment among Trump voters is the stark reality of economic hardship. As of early 2025, the U.S. economy is grappling with several challenges. Jobless claims have surged unexpectedly, with over 242,000 claims filed just last week, a number that far exceeded economists' predictions. While this is a short-term indicator, it reflects a broader issue of job insecurity that continues to haunt the American workforce. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics (BLS), the unemployment rate in January 2025 stands at 4.1%, a slight increase from 3.7% the previous year. More concerning, however, is the rise in underemployment and the disproportionate impact felt by lower income groups. For example, recent data shows that job losses in the retail and manufacturing sectors are disproportionately affecting rural communities, which tend to lean more conservative and are home to many of Trump's supporters. The situation is made worse by rising inflation, which is squeezing the purchasing power of American families. In December 2024, the Consumer Price Index, CPI, showed inflation had risen by 2.9% year over year, with food prices and energy costs being particularly high. The inflation rate, while lower than the peak seen in 2022, still represents a significant strain on everyday Americans. The rising cost of living, particularly in areas such as healthcare, housing, and education, has led many voters to feel betrayed by the promises Trump made during his campaigns to lower costs and bring back jobs. For millions of Americans, particularly in rural and working-class communities, these job losses translate into a daily struggle. A factory worker in Michigan, who once had steady work in the automotive sector, may now find themselves competing for fewer and lower-paying positions in an increasingly automated world. Similarly, workers in retail sectors, particularly in areas where big box stores are closing, face job insecurity as local businesses shutter, often leading to a shrinking tax base in their communities. This creates a vicious cycle where local governments may have fewer resources to fund schools, public services, and infrastructure projects, further exacerbating the community's sense of loss and abandonment. Chapter 2: Trump's Broken Promises, the Betrayal Felt by Voters. Trump's supporters, particularly those in rural and working-class areas, voted for him because they believed he would keep his promises to revitalize the American economy. In his 2016 campaign, he focused on the plight of the working class, particularly in industries like manufacturing, coal, and steel. Trump's rhetoric was appealing because he positioned himself as an outsider who would drain the swamp of Washington, fight for the forgotten men and women, and bring back jobs lost to outsourcing and globalization. However, despite these promises, the reality has been far different. Many of the industries that Trump claimed to champion have continued to struggle. Manufacturing jobs, particularly in the Rust Belt, have continued to decline, with automation and the offshoring of labor playing a major role. Furthermore, the promised revitalization of the coal industry has not materialized in the way that Trump promised. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, EIA, coal production in the U.S. has continued to fall, with renewable energy sources such as wind and solar picking up the slack. For voters who expected Trump to bring their industries back, the disappointment is felt daily. A coal miner in West Virginia, who once worked in a thriving industry, now faces the grim reality of unemployment as coal plants shut down due to the rise of natural gas and renewable energy. While the environmental benefits of cleaner energy are undeniable, for those who relied on coal as a livelihood, it's a painful reality that no political promise can undo. Similarly, manufacturing workers in cities like Detroit or Cleveland, who once saw hope in Trump's promises of revitalizing their sectors, are left with the loss of well-paying, unionized jobs. The shift towards automation and outsourcing continues, and the American middle class, particularly in these industrial sectors, feels hollowed out. Instead of returning to a prosperous era, they're finding themselves stuck in the harsh reality of underemployment or working in service sector jobs that offer low pay and limited benefits. Chapter 3. Political Shifts. A growing divide within the Republican base. The disillusionment among Trump voters is not only economic, but also political. As former supporters express regret, a clear divide is emerging within the Republican Party. There is a growing frustration with both Trump's leadership and the broader Republican establishment. This frustration has been most evident in the public backlash against certain Republican policies, such as the proposed cuts to federal jobs and entitlement programs. One of the most controversial moments has been the remarks made by Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene about federal workers. Greene downplayed the importance of federal jobs, arguing that those losing their jobs did not deserve them. This rhetoric, which dismisses the importance of government employees, has resonated poorly with many voters who depend on federal employment, including veterans, contractors, and workers in essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Congressman Melanie Stansbury from Virginia has been vocal in defending federal workers and countering the rhetoric of politicians like Greene. She has argued that these jobs are vital to the economy and that cutting them would only harm the American public in the long term. Stansbury's comments reflect the broader concerns of voters who are seeing the negative impact of these cuts on their communities. The growing frustration among voters has been particularly evident in town hall meetings, where Republican leaders, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, have faced tough questions from their constituents. Many voters in Republican districts are demanding action on issues like healthcare, education, and job security. However, Republican leadership has dismissed these concerns, claiming that the discontent is manufactured by Democrats or that the protests are being organized by outside groups. This dismissal of voter concerns is alienating many people, further eroding trust in the Republican Party. Chapter 4. The impact of economic policies on voter sentiment. Trump's economic policies have had a lasting impact on the American economy, but their effects on voter sentiment are perhaps even more significant. The gap between Trump's promises and the reality of his policies has led to a shift in the political landscape. Polling data from Morning Consult in early 2025 shows that Republican approval of Trump has dropped by nearly 6% since 2024. Among key voter demographics, including working-class voters and those in rural areas, support for Trump has fallen as economic conditions continue to worsen. This shift is particularly evident among independent voters who were once a key demographic in Trump's coalition. A 2025 Gallup poll found that only 37% of independent voters expressed a favorable opinion of Trump, down from 47% in 2020. This shift in independent support is crucial, as these voters can often be the deciding factor in elections, particularly in battleground states. In addition to economic concerns, political polarization has also played a role in the erosion of Trump's support. Many voters who initially supported Trump because of his outsider status have become disillusioned with his approach to governance. The continuing scandals, legal challenges, and controversial statements have only deepened this sense of betrayal. Chapter 5. The road ahead. Can Trump regain voter trust? As we look ahead to the 2024 election cycle and beyond, the question remains, can Trump regain the trust of his disillusioned base? Given the current state of the economy and the ongoing political battles, it's unclear whether Trump will be able to reverse the trend of declining support. For Trump to reconnect with voters, he will need to address their concerns about job security, healthcare, and rising costs. Additionally, he will have to present a clear vision for the future, one that offers tangible benefits for working-class Americans, not just corporate interests. Given the significant rise in discontent, both among his supporters and within the Republican Party. Trump may find it difficult to regain the level of loyalty that he once enjoyed. At the same time, the shifting political landscape presents an opportunity for Democrats to capitalize on the growing discontent. Figures like Congressman Swaz Suberman have called for increased activism and voter engagement, urging people to get involved in campaigns and protests to hold politicians accountable. If Democrats can effectively mobilize disillusioned Republicans and independents, they could significantly impact the upcoming elections. In conclusion, the growing disillusionment of Trump voters is a complex issue rooted in economic hardship, unfulfilled promises, and political betrayal. As job losses continue to rise and inflation remains high, many former Trump supporters are feeling the sting of unmet expectations. The discontent within Trump's base is a critical issue that will shape the political landscape in the coming years. Whether Trump can regain their trust or whether the Democrats can capitalize on this shift will determine the future direction of American politics. The key to understanding this dynamic lies in recognizing the deep connection between economic policy and voter sentiment, a connection that has never been more apparent than it is today.